You're mine now, Skywalker.
That's pretty good. You sound like James Earl Jones a little more than Darth Vader, but it's the same guy. So that's pretty good.
Welcome to the edge of nowhere. Monster Lore Tour Podcast. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Carr, here along with my co-host and the Rick to my Morty, Mr. Matt Ozero, a.k.a. the Moz. How we doing today, Moz?
No complaints.
Sweet, sweet. You got to be Rick just because it has to be said that way.
I'm okay with that.
Everybody wants to be Rick, but, you know, you can't say Morty to my Rick. It just doesn't sound right because it's Rick and Morty.
So I lucked out just because of the,
That's the only reason you won that one.
All right. I'll take it.
But let's jump into some old business. We're here on part 2 of this UAP thought experiment episode. In part 1, which we actually just recorded a little while ago, we're doing 2 in the same day again. And one other point of old business before we get into it, I did forget to give a Mad Cujos award in the first episode. I dropped the ball on that one. And I did have someone in mind for that.
The slobbery ball. You dropped the slobbery ball.
I dropped the big, wet, slobbery ball for Mad Cujos. I have way too clear of a picture of that in my head right now. But yes, the Mad Cujos Award, I'm just going to give it for this entire 2-part saga. I'm going to give it to Captain David Fravor, the pilot who played a little chicken with the tic-tac.
The mirroring.
That's some badass maneuvers in his jet there. So I'm going to present him with the UAP Mad Cujos Award. Down boy!
Yay.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we really start getting going on part 2 of our thought experiment here?
No, I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right. I do have one other thing before we jump back in. Just mandatory disclaimer here. If you like what you hear in this episode, go check out our Patreon at patreon.com/monsterloretour. Get the website at monsterloretour.com. Members area will lead you back to the Patreon there. Any support is most appreciated. We need to start turning this into something so we can start buying all these books we want and potentially making some merch and things like that. We got some t-shirt ideas already that we want to do. Every membership helps keep this going. Hopefully keeps making us better. So check it out if you can. And let's get into it. So in part 1, we covered the UAP encounters with the Nimitz and the Theodore Roosevelt battle groups. Then we got into the concept and dynamics of field propulsion, aka gravity propulsion or anti-gravity propulsion, as we mentioned as well. And that's where we begin again. So to get deeper into this field propulsion concept, I'm going to turn to the closest thing, as far as I can tell, that we have to a known expert on the potential existence of this sort of propulsion system.
Thank you for that introduction, Jeremy.
Mr. Matt Ozero, everybody.
Third should be 20 seconds. Back to you.
No, his name's not quite that odd, but it does have a Z in it. It's Mr. Bob Lazar.
From The Price is Right. We were just talking about The Price is Right.
No, that was Bob Barker. There you go. Drew Carey.
Okay.
Yeah, Drew Carey.
No, Mr. Area 51 you're talking about, right?
Mr. Bob Lazar. It's actually S2, but we're going to get into that now. So this guy, for those who don't know, again, some of you might, because this is a history lesson still for part of this.
Well, back in my day, it was called Area 51.
So we'll get into it. There is a distinction. But this guy's story is pretty interesting. He really might be an a whole episode later on his own, but he's very relevant to this, so we're going to get into him a bit. One thing to know is the Bob Lazar story is pretty hazy at best. He claims a past that he can't really prove, and a lot of people call him a con man. But a lot of people believe his past has been erased by the government to discredit him and say there is actually good reason to believe his story also. So there's two sides of that coin.
But he's very well informed.
And
guy.
he really
He's
definitely
sound,
knows what he's doing. And there is some record of some of this that we're like the earlier stuff that we know happened. So yeah, it's I'm not going to judge it one way or the other fully yet. If you want to know more, you can go down a big long wormhole on the subject of Bob Lazar. Figure out what you think of him, but for the sake of this thought experiment, we're going to take him at his word, okay? So for those unfamiliar, a little background. Bob Lazar was a supposed graduate of MIT. I don't know why I said was. Is a supposed graduate of MIT. Got noticed by the scientific community in 1982. Now this stuff we can prove. When he was working at Los Alamos National Labs as a physicist, when he converted his little Honda to run on a jet engine that could go 200 miles per hour, had a little 80, maybe even late 70s Honda.
Because it was a Honda, he could drive it all year at 200 miles an hour, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, in Los Alamos, sure. But he is basically a world expert on propulsion systems, and his role in the scientific community got him a job at Section S4. I think I said S2 earlier. S4, which is the actual place people are thinking of when they think of Area 51.
Right.
This is the place where they keep all the crashed UFOs. UAPs. I'm sorry. I should probably use UAP for this, since it's in the title. Bob Lazar claims to have worked on alien technology, specifically alien craft, that worked on some kind of propulsion that all the scientists the government could muster could not figure out or identify. Mr. Lazar reports not only having seen numerous alien craft at the S4 complex, but worked with them directly. His reported task was to try to figure out how to reverse engineer, or back engineer, as he puts it, this alien propulsion system with known materials. The crafts themselves were made from some unknown material that we could not replicate. The best telling of the story I've heard is from the man himself on the Joe Rogan podcast. This was a pre-Spotify episode and is still available on YouTube, at least last I checked, if you want to get the whole story from the horse's mouth on there.
So if Area 51, though, is Gilligan's Island, he's the professor, basically.
Oh, he's totally the professor from Gilligan's Island, yeah. He's that kind of guy.
Coconut out of
totally
radio
that
out
kind
of
of
coconut kind of guy. Okay.
He would have just like built some kind of new motor for that boat and gotten him off that island real quick.
Nice. At 200 miles an hour.
Yeah. Some kind of hydro pump or something.
Hydrofoil.
But anyhow, Bob Lazar reports that these alien crafts generated some sort of field unlike anything humans know how to make. When the craft was active, you couldn't touch it with your hand due to the field. It was like two light poles of a magnet, he says. It would just repel you away from it. So, like, if you went to touch it, it was like if you try
pushing
to
you away.
Push the
two magnets together,
wrong ends of the magnet together and can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it was like trying to put your hand on this thing. And in these crafts, according to Mr. Lazar, there are no wires. Every piece of the craft is modular, not connected by any wires or external connector of any kind. As long as they are within appropriate proximity to each other, the different elements of the craft are able to function as a single unit. Total wireless technology.
So it's IKEA.
It's fields.
Right.
You see? Fields. That's what we've been talking about. The only explanation for a technology like this is field theory.
Right.
To be able to really connect everything like that
theory.
From its own source, just
Right.
put it near it, and it goes.
It's like advanced 3D printing.
It's like
3D field printing.
It's like way many generations past us on the Wi-Fi Bluetooth thing. So all the components on the ships interact through fields. The ship is propelled by some sort of field. We don't know how to make it, but we can at least conceive of how it generally works. So taking Bob Lazar's story at face value, we can see that this field propulsion is not only possible, but may likely have been observed and researched by numerous government scientists and organizations. If this is indeed the case, these crafts collected by the government and studied by scientists like Bob Lazar, running on some sort of generated field technology, then we have to assume that these Tic-Tac crafts run on a similar field generating technology, right? And we have real reason to believe that these propulsion systems exist and that people have been directly exposed to them, and not just the scientists. We're going to get more into that too as we go. This brings us to a very recent development in this story, as far as things go. On April 5th, 2022, the DoD honored a 4-year-old FOIA request made by the British tabloid The Sun. This release of information contained more than 1,500 pages of records on Americans who have had encounters with UFOs/UAPs. The following is from an article on livescience.com. According to The Sun, the cache of documents included reports on the biological effects of UFO sightings on humans, studies on advanced technologies such as invisibility cloaks, like the craft in the frothing water with the Tic-Tac, right? And plans for deep space exploration and colonization. Some portions of the documents were withheld in part, quote unquote, for privacy and confidentiality concerns. One standout document from the collection is a report titled Anomalous Acute and Subacute Field Effects on Human and Biological Tissues, dated March 2010. The report describes alleged injuries to, quote, human observers by anomalous advanced aerospace systems, some of which may be a, quote, threat to United States interests. The report describes 42 cases from medical files and 300 unpublished cases where humans sustained injuries after alleged encounters with anomalous vehicles, which include UFOs. In some cases, humans showed burn injuries or other conditions related to electromagnetic radiation. So there's half of our equation, the electromagnetic and the gravitational. Some of them appearing to have been inflicted by, quote, energy-related propulsion systems, unquote. The report also noted cases of brain damage, nerve damage, heart palpitations, and headaches related to anomalous vehicle encounters.
If you or a loved one been exposed to a UAP, you may be eligible for a cash reward.
Yeah. If more of this keeps coming out, we might be seeing those commercials on daytime TV. But you know what that kind of reminds me of? Those symptoms right there? Brain damage, nerve damage, heart palpitations, headaches. Kind of reminiscent of the whole Havana syndrome.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it was...
and they think it might be some sort of weird beam that they're using, if it is some sort of weapon. But I'm actually putting together an episode on that that's going to come up in the not too distant future here.
Yeah, it sounds like they're practicing that stuff. I mean, ultimately, the Havana syndrome was blamed on the United States, though, right? I mean, don't they think it's
there's
the
a
military?
lot of different angles on that. That's why I actually had that thought while I was writing this, and it made me start writing one for that.
Then you don't want to tell.
It's turned into a pretty long episode, actually. It's going to be like a episode and a half long episode, I think.
Nice. But it's an area. I mean, the 5G is the same kind of thing. If you start some new technology somewhere,
right,
you don't know what the effects are going to be on folks. And was this targeted and a weapon that they were using on civilians in Havana, or was it just some stuff they were working on? Is it, again, is
some theories are if they were like spraying insecticides in the area, using weird chemical cleaners in the compound or something like that, like some kind of chemical reaction that was unintended.
But now we can add if they have UFO parts or UAP parts.
Yeah, there are different theories, and there's a lot of argument over it. It goes back and forth all the time over what it is, what it isn't, what it could be, what it couldn't be.
So don't use Roundup. Use UAPs to get rid of the weeds on your lawn. It's much safer.
It probably is. After those lawsuits, it probably is. Oh, boy. But anywho, let me finish this last bit of this article. The report also includes a list of alleged biological effects of UFO sightings on human observers between 1873 and 1994, So this is not just in the days of us having these technologies ourselves. All right. Compiled by the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, a civilian non-profit group that studies reported UFO sightings. The reported effects of UFO encounters include unaccounted for pregnancy, apparent abduction, paralysis, and experiences of perceived telepathy, teleportation, and levitation. It's quite the spectrum. The unaccounted for pregnancy, I think, is by far the creepiest part of that.
Ties into all the alien-human hybrid stuff.
Yeah, where else are we going to get our star children, right?
And we got to find the next Messiah somewhere.
Oh, boy. Now we're going down a different hole.
Well, I'm just saying.
We're going down gravity hole on this one. Anywho, and here is where the thought experiment portion of this saga actually really begins. Let's take this theory of gravity propulsion, right? I've laid the foundation. I've given you the history.
Right.
Pretty sure it exists. The Navy's working on stuff. We supposedly have stuff to reverse engineer from. We got our foundation. Here's where we really start the thought experiment. Let's take this theory of gravity propulsion or field propulsion or what have you and apply it to a specific situation, okay? Say you wanted to move a large object using this technology, but the object itself is already existing and isn't properly outfitted to be a drive-driven craft on its own. What would you do?
Well, you get hundreds of Egyptians, and then you get those those Anubis-headed dudes with those,
ropes and pulleys,
SG-1
man. Ropes and pulleys.
Weapons and just or ropes and pulleys or that, yeah. So yeah, that's how I would do it. I'm old school, I'm going to just go back old school.
That's pretty old school. Well, we'll get into that later on somewhere in this podcast too. Yeah. I'm sure.
Anubis, yes.
I don't have a plan for it yet, but that'll come up sometime if we keep going long enough. Patreon.com/Monster Lore Tour.
There you go.
Anyway, here's my concept. This is my own thought experiment, not quoting from anything anymore. So if you want to compliment me on my genius or comment on how full of crap I am, please email us at monsterloretour@gmail.com or put it in the comments wherever you're listening to this or whatever's best for you. Anyway, let's put this in terms we can all understand and relate it to the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've all seen the Avengers, I'm assuming, in this crowd. Say you wanted to use this theory to build yourself a sort of Iron Man suit. If you were able to figure out the proper interactions of these fields, essentially you would be working with something similar to the positive and negative charges you get in the magnets and the batteries kind of thing. So to make the propulsion work in the case of a non-craft larger object, you would put one of the field generators on your suit, which would be the larger body in this case, obviously, in the form of pods, maybe. Set up like a web pattern. You know when they put people into video games?
Are you doing pods, Tic Tacs? Is that what you're doing?
Am I doing what?
Like the pods or the Tic Tacs? The nodes?
Yes, the Tic Tac's going to be like that, yeah. But picture like, when they do the video games, have you seen when they put the guys in front of the green screen with the thing on? It looks like all the light bulbs.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. The light bulbs are field generators, okay? This is what I'm getting at. Then you would have a surrounding fleet of smaller field-generating craft. All the field generators able to switch between positive negative fields, and in this way the smaller surrounding crafts are actually what steers you around by pulling and pushing you in whatever direction.
So they're the Tic Tacs.
Okay, so in this way the smaller surrounding crafts actually what steers you by pulling or pushing you in whatever direction your suit needs to go. The ability to switch between the positive and negative fields allows the smaller craft to steer the larger craft, as well as themselves, even each other. So it's all like kind of this one mind, everything moves everything around.
Right.
Right?
Field.
Yeah, field, exactly. Field driven. And this leads me back to the question that led me to do this deep dive into the deep end of insanity. What the hell was that in the water? See, you're calling it the Tic Tac is like the thing that steers the Iron Man suit, right?
So which one's Godzilla? Which one's the UFO? But you're right. Right. So the things were interact.
Yeah.
So you think it's field.
Some sort of craft rose up from beneath the water to rendezvous with the smaller Tic Tac craft, right?
And there was multiple Tic Tacs, but they were in the air. There was only one interacting with the thing in the water. So it wasn't like they were surrounding this thing.
Right. But it came down and had some kind of up close.
Right. Now, if it had gotten out, maybe there other ones were going to surround it. Is that where you're going with this?
Well, let me continue here. I'm going to get back to my notes. It was very likely it was communicating in some way with this craft. So what was it? What was it doing there? I do have a theory, but to put it together, I do need to put a couple more pieces in the puzzle, okay? But you're on track with me. You are. You're doing good for where we're at.
Tick for tack.
I'm give it a little bit away, but the Tic Tac is the thing that steers the Iron Man suit, and the Iron Man suit is the Earth.
Yeah, I was just okay.
Giving it away a little bit, but stick with me, and we're gonna make this
so
all
you're
make sense.
Getting bigger.
Just to keep you in it with me, I'm going to give you that.
All right.
So let me begin by repeating what Commander David Fravor, winner of the double Mad Cujos award at the beginning of the episode, said. Look at it for two reasons. One is there's a capability. We can't explain it. Number two is, if you can explain it, then you can literally change everything that we do. You can literally change everything that we do, okay?
It is 3D printing. I knew it was going to come back.
Yeah, right. But here's where we really get into the connecting pieces of the experiment. We're now going to get into the story I saw reported rather recently in the world of physics. This might take a minute. Stay with me, and we're going to tie it all together. I now would like to present you with a couple of maybe seemingly unrelated headlines. The first is from newscientist.com, published May 12th, 2023.
Boy trapped in refrigerator eats own foot. Sorry.
That's a 2023 kind of story right there.
It's from Airplane. Sometimes Abrams Zucker when I shouldn't.
No, this is actually titled Chaotically Shifting Planets Could Be a Sign of Advanced Aliens. I'm going to have you read this one, Maz.
All right. Oh, I think I got this.
Do you have that?
I think I got it.
Good.
So,
go with it.
Planets that orbit at very similar distances from their stars could jockey for position while still remaining in a broadly stable configuration for billions of years, long enough to be spotted by astronomers. Such star systems might be so unlikely that they could only be created artificially by advanced alien civilizations.
Ooh. And this headline from newscientist.com, published May 9th, 2022, titled, Aliens Could Say Hello by Arranging Planets in Prime Number Pattern.
What would be the best way for an advanced alien civilization to make its presence known across the galaxy? It might be to make the planets in its star system dance in mathematical sequence. Many searches for intelligent life have been conducted to date, such as looking for radio signals or even megastructures surrounding stars, but the results from these can be ambiguous and have potential natural explanations. That is why Sean Raymond at the University of Bordeaux, France, and his colleagues have proposed we could look for planets orbiting in specific patterns that could have only arisen artificially. Their idea is that a sufficiently advanced civilization could alter the orbits of planets in its solar system to act as a beacon of its existence to an outside observer. Over thousands of years, the gravitational pull of asteroids could be used to slowly move planets into a different position, making them have complete orbits relative to each other in a particular set ratio or resonance. In theory, it's totally doable, says Raymond. The team suggests aliens could arrange their planets in sequence that are unlikely to form naturally, such as prime number sequence, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and so on, or a third of a minute, light reaching the sun. No, sorry. Or the Fibonacci sequence, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, and so on. Simulating these orbits, the researchers found they could last for 20 billion years before falling out of resonance, even surviving the death of the host star. That's a long time.
20 billion years, that's a message that would last a long time.
You know, it reminds me of 48 hours ago, there was a news of the Milky Way has these filaments that seem to be in a sequential pattern at the near and around the black hole at the center of the galaxy. There's these filaments they just discovered. Now you get an idea of when we recorded
some kind
this.
Of mathematical sequence.
It seems like it, yeah. But this is more about an orbiting planet and letting people know. But this is on a bigger scale. This is like someone's like, screw that little planetary shit. I want to paint a big canvas.
Yeah, galactic level canvas.
Yeah.
So anyway, it seems as though scientists are a little caught up the past few years over aliens being able to manipulate whole star systems worth of planets, moving bodies around with enough precision to change and determine the orbits of all the celestial bodies within the system. And that brings us to where this whole thought experiment started and what's going to tie this all together. The following is from an article on sciencealert.com with the headline, "Interstellar travel could be possible even without spaceships," scientist says. The author of a new research article in the International Journal of Astrobiology says the extraterrestrial civilizations, ETCs for the remainder, could use free-floating planets, also known as rogue planets, as spacecraft. The article is Migrating Extraterrestrial Civilizations and Interstellar Colonization, Implications for SETI and SETA. The author is Irina Romanovskaya, yes.
She dated Boris Badenov. I remember her.
Yeah. Irina Romanovskaya is a professor of physics and Here comes the helicopter again.
Doodle.
Irina Romanovskaya is a professor of physics and astronomy at Houston Community College. Romanovskaya writes, "I propose that extraterrestrial civilizations may use free-floating planets as interstellar transportation to reach, explore, and colonize planetary systems. Free-floating planets can provide constant surface gravity, large amounts of space and resources. Free-floating planets with surface and subsurface oceans can provide water as a consumable resource and for protection from space radiation. An advanced civilization could also engineer the planet for an even greater advantage by steering it and developing energy sources. Romanovskaya suggests that if we're on the verge of using controlled fusion, then advanced civilizations might already be using it.
Yeah, but what kind of gas mileage is really going to get? Come on, it's big.
Which could change a frigid rogue planet into something that could support life. With sufficient lead time, they could adapt the planet to their needs, for example, by building underground or under ocean shelters and other infrastructure. Maybe with adequate technology, they could alter or create an atmosphere."
So interplanetary, under ocean.
Interstellar,
I mean.
Yeah, but they build stuff under the ocean to protect them from the radiations of deep space and things like that.
Okay.
In this way, the parent civilization may create unique and autonomous daughter civilizations inhabiting different planets, moons, or regions of space in the form of its colonies and planetary systems. This applies to both biological and post-biological species.
Johnny Planetseed.
Are you familiar with post-biological species?
They're dead.
When you become like pure energy, you move beyond the biological and just exist as thought form.
Covered in a couple of Star Trek episodes.
We'll get into that, I'm sure, at some point with me on this podcast. But anywho, so what am I getting at here, Maz? What is my ultimate theory on this that I believe way too much right now? What am I thinking, Maz? You were figuring it out. The Iron Man suit thing, the tic-tac in the Earth is like the pods in the Iron Man suit.
So what we're
talking about planets being used as interstellar spacecraft.
Right.
Moved around solar systems purposefully to set it up for life to flourish and send messages and whatnot.
Right, but the UFOs, if they got us here that way, what are they doing now? Oh, well, so there was something under the ocean.
Well, the theory I'm working at here is the Earth itself is a spaceship. Right. That's what I'm trying to lock in at the moment. We're going to get into what they're doing here and stuff.
Okay.
But an advanced
a lot to tie together in my small brain.
And that little bitty
Moz brain there.
head that you have can't hold all that much brain.
No, it can't. I don't know.
That's why he lives in a cave.
That's why I got the photon question wrong.
Photon? Oh, yeah. 8 1/3 minutes. The least scientific
I'm asking
way you could
Siri.
put that.
I'll see your Jugal and I'll raise you Siri on this one.
Anywho, I keep saying I'm going to tie it together. I'm going to do it right now. So the Earth itself is a spaceship. An advanced civilization from across the galaxy, possibly even another galaxy entirely, we don't really know at this point, right? Used the Earth as an interstellar craft and journeyed here to our solar system, placed the Earth in orbit around the sun. Then they seeded the planet with life, sparking the evolutionary process that led to our very existence. We spend so much time as a society hypothesizing about and looking for proof of alien life. But what if we are the aliens? What if we are the result of an experiment conducted by a hyper-advanced alien civilization that put the Earth and everything upon it here on purpose? What if they had a good reason for putting us here?
Part of this is the ancient alien, premise in the beginning of the show. Not all of it. What are you talking about? With that, the ship itself was the planet that was parked here.
Is that ancient aliens? Have they done the Earth as a spaceship?
No, except that part. The rest of it is, we're did they ever leave? Or are we part of them? Are we hybrids? That component of it. But I don't think they go so far as to say. But the Earth
itself wasn't even here to begin with. They actually brought it here and put it in place to become the life-bearing place that it became.
I've heard that with the moon to some degree.
Well, if the Earth was in that case, then of course the moon came with it, right? It would have to be built to do the stuff that it does to support the life that it supports.
I'm not so sure.
And we'll get into that later on down the road.
No, I'm gonna call you out on this. When people travel, they want their luggage to match.
Right.
The Earth and the moon don't look anything like each other. So you'd think if they were going together, they
are made out of the same stuff, though. The oxygen signatures and the carbon dating and stuff. They actually
aesthetics.
They were created in the same frame of time in the same place because the material does match that much.
But the colors, I would never travel interstellarly with that combo together. Like you try to match that a little bit better. All I'm saying from an aesthetic.
Well, one thing you could do, I am going to talk about the moon a lot more later when we get into the alien probes thing.
Jeremy's still really serious, and I just made a ridiculous.
No, I'm going to give you something for this because the real thing is that the moon, because it is made of the same stuff as the Earth's crust, basically. The Earth could have had way more crustal material, and then when they got here, they shaved off what they needed to make the moon and create the oceans and the waterways and whatnot. So they brought all the raw material in one ball and then created the moon from it. How's that for a theory?
I have to admit I haven't heard that.
I haven't either. I just made it up. That's pretty good though.
It's just extra.
And it will line up with things we get into later, but that's definitely a later episode. So if we get back to our whole thing with the tic-tac steering, the tic-tacs are the steer little pods that steer the Earth around like the Iron Man suit. I keep coming back to that vessel rising up from the water. Could that be a field generator that's based on the bottom of the ocean? And that's what, actually makes it move. Because on the suit, the Earth didn't have that capability to begin with, so they had to put these in, right? They had to put in a web of these around the globe so that it could be pushed and pulled from all the different angles.
Right, and since this is already where it is, maybe they were just coming back and getting some of their old equipment.
Right.
Like they needed this for their next mission.
Right. So if this is the case, it begs another question. Is there an advanced civilization at the bottom of the ocean that flew our planet here from another region of space entirely and placed it in this perfect orbit for supporting life for us?
The Goldilocks zone, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was parked here. It was driven here. It was parked here. The moon was parked here.
I dropped my tree.
Oh, that's bad. That's the Axis Mundi.
I'm talking with my hands.
He just dropped the life
that's
tree
supposed to be up here
off of the table.
Hold on.
So we were totally disoriented for a while there and had no bearings. Our cosmological world collapsed.
Okay, we're better now.
This is like if the great Atuan, the turtle, it's just fell off the pillars and we all just slid into the abyss.
Right.
That just happened and no one noticed.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, maybe they did because it was a crash.
Oh, boy.
But it's okay. I mean, we have to regroup. Like, that's never
Okay.
happened. The Axis Mundi just...
I'm going to regroup on this episode right now.
Okay.
So what would this look like? I figure you would need a number of these field generators, spread out in the strategic web. Probably
Nodes everywhere.
one at each pole, right?
At least.
And if you look at our magnetic field, it kind of comes out of the South Pole and into the North Pole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of feeds into the whole flow of things like that. But one at each pole, and then a web-like network around the globe. So a bunch of them are going to be at the bottom of the oceans. Those are easy enough to hide. But some of them are going to have to be on land. So where would you hide something like that? Maybe underneath a giant stone pyramid?
There you go.
Something like that.
And they're
Or maybe,
equidistant. I mean,
maybe
there's
mark it with a circle of stone monoliths of some kind.
So you're tying this into like ley lines and energy lines and existing pyramids.
This could actually explain why the ley lines are there. These make the energy flow that way.
Right.
This is the web that creates those lines.
Dang.
Just spitballing here.
No, it's just crazy enough to get us all killed.
Right? What's the quote? I forget who said it, but a big scientist said, yes, your theory is crazy, but it's not nearly crazy enough to be true. Because reality is always stranger than we can even conceive of if we really figure it out. But anyway, so we got these things, under the pyramids, under Stonehenge, at the bottom of the ocean, blah, blah, blah. Then you would need that fleet of smaller support craft
These
to
tugboats,
maintain and the
Field.
whole flow and the movement, and, make minor adjustments here and there maybe. That would be the Tic Tacs.
The field propulsion tugboats, basically.
Right. Well, I'm going to go back and re-quote something from episode 1 here from the Roosevelt Group. They did at times get visual verification of some of the crafts, and an astonishing number of radar contacts were enough to raise a lot of people's concerns. And we heard how they were see like a whole fleet of these things at once up in the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So we see here that Tic Tac was not a lone craft by any means, but that there seemed to be whole fleets around all the time. Like they see them daily. So here, through the lens of the thought experiment we're doing, the fleet of smaller craft are steering the larger mothership, okay? And I do want to make another note. I'm going to have you read your next one here in a second, Moz. These aren't unique to just the Nimitz and the Roosevelt either, or even just the U.S. military. These crafts have been spotted in all kinds of places around the globe. As an example, the most recent story I found on one of these sightings is from June of 2021. It took place in the UK. The New York Post ran an article on this story on June 19th, 2021. Do you have that, Moss?
I do. The UFO resembling a white Tic Tac spotted in 2004 by former U.S. Navy pilot Commander David Fravor while on duty at the USS Nimitz is back, but this time it's floating over England. Pictures of the notorious UFO were snapped by Lucy Jane Castle from Hinckley in southwest Leicestershire, who managed to grab a snap of the unexplained object and posted it on a UFO Hunters Facebook page, which was found by the Daily Star. It was hovering for a while, and within a blink of an eye it had gone, Castle said. Never seen anything like this before in that shape. Quickly took a picture while it was very still, and within a blink of an eye it disappeared. Dan Watson, a fellow of the private UK UFO sightings group, then posted a pic of two similar objects he claims to have seen over Swindon last year, and a man called Terry Moore noted, "Sightings have increased massively. From what I've heard, U.S. military had 6,000 sightings last year alone. So either we're being visited or someone has some new tech."
And just to put that in perspective, 6,000 sightings in a year is over 16 sightings a day.
Yeah, I wonder what the whole MUFON library is. We've got to be getting some massive catch-up in recent years.
NASA's getting into the game now of collecting and using this information, things like that too. I actually have, I believe that's a follow-up for one of my coming episodes one of our members' side trail excursions in the
Nice.
members area at patreon.com/monsterloretour. So anyway, we see there's whole fleets of these things out there. The U.S. military, and as we are learning more and more all the time, the other militaries of the world are seeing these things on a very regular basis in very notable numbers. Okay. So at this point you're asking, but if these field generating stations are positioned all around the globe, why aren't we aware of them? We would have found something by now, right? But let's look at it this way. We have seen one of these tic-tac crafts meet up with some sort of craft from under the ocean. The pilot saw it directly, described it as a cross-shaped craft approximately the size of a 737 from what they could see. The tic-tac seemed to engage with it in some way, zigzagging around all crazy and everything, a totally different type of movement than it showed any other time, indicating maybe some sort of communication. It wouldn't think to dock with the other craft directly because the mindset of the tech, no wires, no connection, you just need to get close enough. If you put the stuff close enough together, all of a sudden it becomes active. So these crafts would communicate or otherwise interact through their fields rather than direct connection. But these fields are totally unknown to us. They work based on formula that we have yet to discover or come close to understanding. We don't know how to look for them. The pilots saw this craft with their own eyes, but it wasn't showing up on sonar or any other sensing devices of the military at the time. So some sort of stealth technology would have to be at work. And of course there is. We're dealing with an alien technology so advanced they use whole planets as spaceships. So of course they have these things. But what better place to hide such things than at the bottom of the ocean? Natural protection, minimal chance of discovery, and if they have to risk it, there's the cloaking. Lots of hyper-intelligent octopus friends to frolic with on holiday down there.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, I feel like I just pulled a Moz. I'll yell at myself for that one later. And when necessity called for a land-based station, they could just bury it deep and mark its position with something like, there's pyramids all over the planet.
Right.
Maybe they each have one of these things under it, right? Maybe. Thought experiment? Yeah, maybe.
You're thought experimenting, and you're just trying to tie in a lot of things.
Yeah.
It is interesting you're just going, you say go big or go home. You're going big.
I'm going big, baby, and then I'm going home because I'm going to be tired. This has been a long day. Our recording sessions are long.
But you definitely are trying to tie everything into one crazy thought experiment.
And speaking of which, another factor to consider is Earth's hot molten core. Another thing I want to tie in.
Yeah.
As it says in the article, these alien races would most likely have fusion-generating power plants to power their mission through intergalactic space. What if instead of building a power plant, they just harnessed the power of the Earth's core? If they put stations at the bottom of the oceans, they could have access to the geothermal vents that put out superheated water at great depths, maybe even somehow utilize the power of underwater volcanoes. Gratuitous volcano reference for you there, Moz. This could solve both the problem of protection from radiation of deep space and the problem of power supply. If they were able to harness this power, but if they are able to build stations at such great depths and have field-generating propulsion systems, it seems like a no-brainer they would be able to do that, right? This is why they have nice things.
Have you tied in UAP sightings and volcanic eruptions?
There is a connection. I'm not getting into it specifically in what I'm doing at this point, but there is a big connection between volcanic eruptions and UFO sightings. Have you heard any of that?
Yeah, there's a lot of pictures that show UFOs around volcanoes, and they might just be interested
But yeah, there's a number.
What came first, the chicken or the UFO? I guess
there's a number of actually pretty good videos of volcanic eruptions with the Orby flying around UAP thing.
More than one volcano, more than one UFO.
Yeah, so there is a tie-in there on some level that, or at least some people will tell you there definitely is.
Yep.
But anywho,
I was making a joke and I forgot it was true. I guess that's what happened there.
See, that's when you know you're getting properly weird, is when your jokes are actually true. Yeah. It's like, no, wait, that was supposed to be funny.
The weirder it gets, just say something weird.
I'm not letting you get away
true.
with that one, Boz. Not letting you get away with that one. But anywho, so they set up their stations under the ocean. maybe the poles, under the pyramids, blah, 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 launch their fleet of support Tic Tacs, which start them off on the trajectory to a faraway, yet to be researched little spiral-armed galaxy out on the edge of space. Must be a truly exciting moment for a society to launch a ship as majestic as Earth, don't you think? Far more impressive than that Freudian rocket of Jeff Bezos, right?
Mm-hmm. But if you break a champagne bottle like on a rock somewhere, it's gonna be anticlimactic.
Or like blowing up a Falcon Heavy. That's not nearly as fun as launching an Earth.
Well, maybe that's how the Grand Canyon was formed. It was someone breaking a giant champagne bottle on Earth when they set it up.
Ooh, it's from the christening of the starship?
Yeah, like Mars has one. Mars.
So was it full of champagne when it started?
Maybe. I mean,
That'd be
we're back
broken
to the
glass too, though.
We're back to the Mentos and the soda thing.
That's an old trick, the Mentos and the soda. If you haven't tried it, try it. It's going to make a mess, though. Do it outside. Anywho, on the way through space, far away from any sun, the surface of the ocean and all the land water would deep freeze. But this access to the thermal vents in the bottom of the ocean connected to the Earth's superheated core, that would surely have a way of boring a hole through the ice if necessary for rendezvous with the support craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they had to get closer to make the fields work or whatever. Then again, maybe they wouldn't have to, because if their field-based tech was good enough,
they go through the ice.
Probably just get on either side of the ice and close enough, right? So as they travel through on their long stretch through deep space and in between star systems or even galaxies, the Tic Tacs would just do their thing, keeping the trajectory right and maintaining proper spin for the G-force and whatnot. The guys on the mothership did their thing, keeping their equipment working and keeping their octopus companions entertained and all that. It would make some sense, considering that the ice in their super advanced tech. I think maybe they brought the moon along with them as an outbuilding for the Tic Tac cruise, maybe?
Well, that's what I said. I think that's...
Maybe there's another angle on it. It could be a landing place for the support crew that's outside the ice.
Oh yeah, you have to put the construction folks somewhere.
Right. It was like the workers' quarters.
Yeah. You have to build that first.
The crew quarters for the support craft.
I've never heard that one either.
Yeah.
So I gotta give
this is why I like thought experiments. You just come up with stuff. It's total spitballing.
Yeah, there you go.
Something's going to stick.
This is a giant ahuguano file is what you're doing right now.
The one thing that really sticks and is really reality is those FOIA documents that pretty much show the U.S. Navy is building some sort of field generator drive.
Right.
Field propulsion, real gravity drive kind of stuff they're working on, the U.S. Navy. Yeah. That's real. That part's real. You can look up those documents. I'll put it in the show notes.
Or it's real enough that they have the funding to explore and test, which is amazing in and of itself. Yeah,
true. But this goes on until they reach the remote little galaxy of the Milky Way, find a perfect orbital slot, and slip into it around the sun's soul. Maybe they even bumped Mars out of the way to get things just right.
Well, maybe when someone was parking another planet, they were really bad and they crashed, and that's how the asteroid belt happened.
Yeah, or maybe they had
to
blow it up to make the gravity right.
Earth is like actually the second one. The first one is the asteroid belt.
Oh, that was the test drive?
Some terrible driver.
The test run, they were like, oop, that was a little off. Let's try again.
Yeah. They didn't know how to parallel park, and it got really ugly fast.
But anyway, once they park in orbit, they just have to melt the ice, get the fine details of the gravity and whatnot locked in. And the rest just kind of runs itself. New exotic vacation spot for all those folks back in the Horsehead Nebula or Alpha Centauri or whatever, wherever it may be. Or maybe just some sort of scientific laboratory. Or maybe it was a desperate escape from a dying sun that was threatening to destroy the planet orbiting it. As our sun will do at some far distant point in the future. We have way too much time to worry about that now, but...
That's how the Earth got Superman.
So, but when it comes time, if we are still here, will we ourselves have the technology to purposely launch the Earth from its orbit and ride it all the way to Proxima Centauri and establish a new home for our wandering world? What do you think? Will humans last long enough to see that day? And if so, would we be able to save ourselves in that manner?
I think we're so ready to blow ourselves up, but it might throw us in a direction.
I guess if we set off a big enough bomb, it'll launch us out somewhere, right?
That's good.
Oh, that's a terrible thought. Thanks, Maz.
Asteroid belt 2.
I thought you had no complaints. You're going to make me have an extra shot of tequila with talk like that.
Dang. Well,
Anywho, let's
Have
focus.
we gotten to the alpha guano file? Because this sounds like...
Oh, we're not even close, dude.
Okay, this sounds like this thought experiment is approaching batshit.
I told you we were going to get weird. I started really weird.
And it got weirder.
But then I'm actually going to get a little more sane as I go through this arc with the alien probes is going to be actually more sane than the UAPs.
There we go.
Weird. Although it's going to get really weird again at the end of that.
Okay.
I fluctuate. I go up and down. It's like a sine wave where I go really weird, not so weird, really weird, not so weird.
It's like, it's like anti-gravity.
Yeah. Well, I took it easy on everybody with the Gloucester Sea Serpent for my first episode. Now I'm showing you where I'm really going. How weird I can be, and then I'll ease back a little bit again.
All right. This is the two ends of the spectrum. You've shown us normal.
Yes, I'm giving you the two ends, and then I'm going to merge back into the
There you
middle,
go.
you know?
The Goldilocks zone.
I'm going to find the happy medium where people actually like me, because they probably don't yet.
It'll happen.
But anyway, let's focus our thought experiment back on the present in the Earth's current port of birth. There is one more important question we need to ask. Where did they go? If a hyper-advanced alien civilization used our world as an interstellar spacecraft to bring us to this remote haven, where are they now?
Well, after you sell the place, you can move on to selling other places.
Oh, they just sold us.
Yeah.
That's mean.
Yeah.
I do see a few possible hypotheses for the enigma that I actually wrote out here. So let's go through these one at a time.
Does Hollow Earth come into this? Is the reptilian agenda next?
Well, I kept it a little more basic than that. I'm going to do like the general angles that you could theorize on. So for one, they're still here.
Right.
Yeah, they're still here doing their thing at the bottom of the ocean, out in space, and just leaving us to our own in the middle here. Makes sense in a way. They would definitely be so ridiculously more advanced than us. They would see us like we see animals, especially if we are just a side effect of evolution and not a purposefully created species.
That's beginning to make sense. Now you're talking.
Yeah. But at worst, we're no more to them than rats are to us, I guess, right?
So they're
we're
B.F.
rats,
Skinner.
We're rats on their ship.
They're B.F. Skinner, and
we're
we're the rats. We're being operant conditioned right now.
Ooh, there's
There
a
you go.
thought. At best, I figure we're maybe like dolphin status, where like, you know how we...
Yeah, but the dolphins leave first. Remember, like in
that's right. Yeah.
in Douglas Adams,
Douglas Adams,
they take off into the space. And it's so long, thanks for all the fish.
Interesting point. But there's no way we match up with the venerable octopus anyway. They're definitely smarter than us. I doubted this theory at first. Looking at it from this angle, it seems if they were still here, they would have killed us off by now for ruining their luxury resort with our dirty-ass fossil fuel burning selves. But then again, and this is a theory, I think warrants contemplation, as this is a thought experiment, if you actually want to follow my lead on this. Maybe they're the ones that got us using the stuff in the first place to terraform the surface for them before they relaunch for another trip across deep space.
Dang.
We're warming up the oceans, warming up the air. It's going to make it freeze a little different when they start heading out away from the sun. And
we're doing their bidding.
We're literally like creating our own demise, but in a completely different way than anybody understands.
Wow.
It's actually our alien overlords that are tricking us into it. So I guess it is the reptilians.
Yeah. It's reverse terraforming.
Yeah, kind of reverse terraforming. They're getting it ready to move.
I mean, for them, it's terraforming. For us, it's reverse
maybe like that
terraforming.
carbon dioxide is fuel for them as they go. So it's like, oh, maybe they're plant-based.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe it's the plants.
Yeah, we smoke the plants. The plants make us do stuff. The plants.
No, because they breathe the CO2.
Right, but I'm saying
we're making more and more CO2.
Yeah, it's a little shop of horrors
getting
on
too
a galactic scale.
This is where you need to pull me back, Moz. I'm getting too weird for myself.
Yeah,
Let's move on to the second concept. We are them.
Yeah, that's an ancient alien concept.
Yeah. We got here. We got shop all set up. Then something unexpected happened. It's hard to imagine what might outdo such an advanced race, but everyone makes mistakes, right? Maybe there was some big galactic-wide war sometime long ago somewhere far, far away. Maybe some sort of cataclysm killed most of us off and we reverted to a more primal existence. Maybe it was a space-borne virus of some kind even. Forgetting all of the wonderful things we used to know about how the universe worked and how to seed it with life. We just lost the knowledge. Maybe that is what is behind our psychological longing to constantly advance technology. What do you think of that? Our DNA knows that we used to know how to manipulate the universe, but it's all forgotten, and we have this drive to hurry up and recreate it. How's that for a theory, Moz?
Dang, so evolution is really not what it's cracked up to be. We're being driven.
Totally different thing. It exists, but it's a totally different thing than what we think it is.
Yeah, and it's not positive.
No, this is all quite dark, actually, if you really start getting into it.
Yeah, now I'm going to need that other shot of tequila.
Yeah, it's that kind of episode. All right, one more. Number 3, they left. They put the system on autopilot, grabbed another planet to go on another adventure. Or maybe they just went home, sadly forgetting some of their octopus companions when they departed. It is a terrible thing for those octopus left behind, though, I think. I really do. What a sad fate for them. But a hyper-advanced species that could teach us so much, and we are too primitive to be able to learn. Until my octopus teacher came out, I think we've started the process.
What if we're there, Australia? Like Alpha Centauri's Australia, and this is the penal colony for the octopus who...
Oh, we got memory wiped, and they put us on the penal colony.
No, the octopus that are in our oceans
are the bad ones.
Bad ones. This is their Australia.
We're octopus
and it's down
Australia.
Under. It's down under.
So
the water.
Oh, wow. It's down under, mate.
He's agreeing with me, so I don't even know what I'm saying.
I love it.
Jeremy's
I
agreeing.
love it. I love it. And that's a great way to lead into this week's Ahu Guano theory of the week. We've been doing
Ahu Guano. This is the Ahu Guano theory.
Oh no, here it comes. Quick, to the batshit signal.
You can't double Ahu Guano right now, man. This has gone batshit for a while.
It's going to get a little bit weirder.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready. I'm listening.
This is the theory that leads us to the pièce de résistance.
All right.
The most ahuli of guano theories encapsulated in this 2-part thought experiment. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to rehash the theory already established herein, then I'm going to bring it to its natural ahuli conclusion. Here we go. The Earth was manufactured by a hyper-advanced alien society placed here purposely, seeded with all the life it contains, including us humans, and then left here to our own devices and the control system that runs on autopilot that we are unaware of, to perform some specific task or function for that alien race. It resembles simulation theory, but instead of being a virtual computer program, we are a living, breathing, flesh and bone part of this larger living organic machine that was built for and intended purpose. Do you realize what this implies, Moz? Do you realize what this would mean if this is the conclusion of our thought experiment?
Douglas Adams was right.
Douglas Adams was right. Slarty Bart Fast himself could have been piloting that Tic Tac, man.
The fjords.
Oh, I love those. They're truly award-winning fjords, man.
So that's where you were going with this.
That is my Ahul Guano theory. That's as crazy as I could get with this. Reality will never be the same, man. Arthur Dent lives.
Oh.
Vote Beeblebrox, Maz. Vote Beeblebrox.
Beeblebrox.
You know I will.
Yeah.
Okay, let's again repeat what Commander David Fravor said at the end of that interview. If you can explain it, then you can literally change everything that we do. Well, we just explained it, Maz. Actually, Douglas Adams explained it a long time ago, but it took us a long time to realize it. And now it's going to change everything I do because my reality will never be the same.
That's what Favor said. It would change everything we will do.
Yeah.
Is Douglas Adams. He will
Douglas
change
Adams.
everything we will do. Mm-hmm. He has for me. He's been an impact. He's a role model.
But anywho, okay. I'm done getting down the weird.
Well, I'm glad I got that right at least.
You did. You got it. And it's funny that you mentioned him a little early too. That was great.
The Dolphins.
That was great. I did put in some leading hints as to the Douglas Adams thing. There were a few things in there that were almost kind of quotes from Hitchhikers.
Oh, really?
Subtle. I put in subtle hints, and the dolphins was part of that. The mention of dolphins was purposeful for that.
But that because they left the planet just before it got bad. Okay.
So that's my first thought experiment. Got really weird. Any questions, comments, complaints, or salutations, send them to monsterloretour@gmail.com. Okay, before we get into our other closing segments here, Maz, do you want to add or ask or comment anything?
Well, you tied in every crazy theory known to man, And
I got a lot more than that, dude. That's only a drop in the bucket.
But I know that some of the structure of some of your other episodes,
right?
And this one is
as crazy as I get.
This is as crazy as you get.
Yeah. Well, that's why I called it a thought experiment. I usually try to bring you real facts for the most part and tell real stories as much as I can. Try to be realistic with my theories, but this was just kind of playing with concepts and seeing where they led. And it literally, I surprised myself when I got to Ahuguano and I was like, oh my God, Douglas Adams is right. I surprised myself with that.
But you are taking something that's new in a way that we now know if it's actually a thing, and you're just extrapolating. What could that possibly mean?
Right.
And it is limitless as to what this could possibly mean.
Right. Yeah, I guess I'm breaking
wind.
I'm not I'm not trying to get people to actually believe everything in this. I'm trying to break barriers, expand the parameters of what people might conceive as being potentially real, because we need to start doing that with stuff we're faced with right now. Humans need to expand their reality a little bit.
Yeah.
Take
a step into the dark, into the abyss.
Yeah.
You're trying to bend time and space around yourself.
We need to touch the monolith, as Arthur Clarke might say.
Yeah. We need to be a bunch of monkeys, and then we start... No, wait, I went Mel Brooks totally in my mind with that. We don't want to do that. Don't do that. Don't go there. For the three of you that went there, I apologize right now.
Oh, boy.
Get that vision out of your head.
All right, let's move on into our closing segments then before this gets any worse. Let's start with our Sir Richard Scully Muggle Skeptics Review.
You're full of crap, and that's the nicest thing that I can say.
Okay, so what would Sir Richard Scully Muggle say about these UAPs and Earth being a spaceship?
I have one thing I want to say, and I wish off the top of my head I knew. There's a TED Talk recently, within the last few years, of a woman who's trying to make a kind of a Dawkinsy argument, a materialistic, why are people so deluded? This is a student of Pinker and Dawkins who's just trying to say, why do we go down all these rabbit holes that you just went?
Sure.
Why do people believe all that? But she used the example. She could have used anything that was mentioned in this episode and probably would have worked. She used just the concept of the UFO, UAP, as the example of why do people even believe this stuff?
Well, it's been confirmed that they're somehow real. The military believes it. The government believes it. They're showing us videos of it.
As an example of delusion, why are people so easily deluded? She uses the example of UFOs.
Bad example.
And on the cusp of all this stuff coming out, she only did this a few years ago. It's like you could have done Chupacabra, anything.
Yeah, Bat Squatch or something.
Let's do
Which is an upcoming episode, by the way, Bat Squatch.
Do anything.
I'm going to stick a fun one in there.
But the thing that's about to come out, that Mulder was right. And, and again, Mulder was right. Why use that? And
that's crazy.
But it shows you where the mindset still is.
Yeah.
And it also, we were just talking about this on break. There's so much going on right now on our planet, and there's so many things coming out with AI, and there's so many headlines that are so hard to wrap your head around the implications, that the UFO stuff does get sidelined because everything is either, I don't know why people have just tuned out to everything going on, but it's also so hard to absorb. Don't look up. Don't look up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's mad. It's madness.
Yeah, well said,
mad world that was driven here by aliens with little Iron Man tugboat
exactly.
tic-tacs.
And this episode was so ridiculously mad in the end. I try to write a real skeptic's view on these things, but it would take a whole nother episode to go through it all because there's just so many ways to tear this apart, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the skeptics would have a lot of ammo on this one is basically what I'm getting at.
Yes. Yeah.
But anywho, so speaking of which, let's get to our own personal where we stand with our Scully Mulder believability scale.
They feel your methods, your theories are
spooky. Do you think I'm spooky?
Wait, why am I Scully? So on what are we basing this?
I'm actually going to do a few rounds on this. Okay? Because there was so much stuff in here in 2 parts. I have a couple segments here. What did I do? I did three segments we're going to rate our believability on, okay? So the first question is, you want to go first? You want me to go first? You want to hear my answer
I'm
first?
ready.
Okay.
I don't need you for this.
So my first question is, do you believe that field propulsion is a real and attainable form of travel?
Theoretically,
so that it could potentially exist and that we could potentially achieve it.
Theoretically, like an 8 or 9. I mean, it's there.
That's pretty strong.
It's where we're moving. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to achieve it or attain it. I don't know if that $150,000
But you're an 8.5 that we will someday have that as humans.
I'm an 8 1/3.
Wow. Great tie-in, Maz. And you really are still upset about the 8 1/3 minute
Well,
thing.
we bet a beer from your fridge that's yours. So I didn't
already
lose a
paid
lot.
for it. No, you bought me a bottle of tequila, though. So
That's true. That's right.
That's better than a beer.
Yep.
Good tequila. Luna Azul.
Luna Azul.
Reposado tequila, everybody. Great deal. Great tequila.
No, dang, dang.
Let me put it this way. If you can get it for the $23 that we got it for, it's a great tequila. At that price, great tequila.
Yep.
Anywho, back to the question, do I believe that field propulsion is real and attainable? I actually wrote this down. From my research, and particularly from the FOIA documents I found from the U.S. Navy that we've discussed a couple times, and the FOIA documents obtained by the UK Sun that we talked about, I absolutely believe that field propulsion is a real and attainable form of propulsion. I give a big fat 10, not only to the concept, but the very likely existence of field propulsion systems and our witnessing of them. How else do you explain how these crafts are moving around? And we have it on video, like it's recorded, it's documented. So we're either there, and they haven't told us yet, or we're definitely on our way to achieving that. I think pretty soon we're going to reach this civilization filter where we either take a big step forward and become a Star Trek-like society, or we just destroy ourselves and maybe some of us survive in caves somewhere and start over again.
Yeah.
Something to think about there.
Good times.
Yeah. This is a really weird episode. Number 2, do you believe the Tic Tac and other observed craft, like the gimbal, the Go Fast and whatnot, all these new ones that are coming out, are actually field-driven craft of some kind?
See, that it could be other things. It could be other things. It goes
True.
down to a 5 or 6 for me. It's one of the theories.
Yeah,
So
I don't blame you for a 5 at all on that. Like middle of the road, it's something, I don't know what it is, and they're also different. Who knows how they're working? So yeah, a 5 is definitely a very legit answer to that. I'm leaning a bit more towards believing it because I'm me. And I can't be as adamant about it specifically as I am about the field propulsion just kind of in general, but I'm going to give it like a 7.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure that's what's going on
All right.
there.
All right.
If you take Bob Lazar at his word, that's definitely what's going on there almost.
It's a good point.
But that's if you take Bob Lazar at his
but
word.
it's also that's where he's directing it. Yeah.
Because I'd be a 5, but I'm a 5 on him.
He's
But
moved
the
it.
5
He's
with the
moved the
5, and
needle.
you get 7. 5 plus 5 equals 7 on my timeline now all of a sudden.
There you go.
Anywho, number 3, do you believe that the Earth is a spaceship?
The Douglas Adams thing.
Not necessarily that Douglas Adams was right. That was the Yahoo Guano. I don't ask anyone to believe that.
I'm still
but
going to
do
go.
you think that the Earth has actually been used as a spaceship?
I'm still going to channel Douglas Adams. So on this scale of 1 to 10, I'm going with 42.
Why did that make sense? 42 is a great answer to that because it's a ridiculous question. When I started out, I tried to put myself at a 5, like we were saying, middle of the road, don't believe or disbelieve, just because I was doing a thought experiment, right? Once I wrote it all down and it culminated naturally at Douglas Adams was right, I fell down to a 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Which might be my lowest rating yet.
So
That's
40 and 2.
Yeah, I don't want to completely and utterly disbelieve it because I love the concept, but I can't get above a 2.
Yeah. It's
I give it just that little bit, so it's like so I can just still philosophize about the concept. That's all I'm giving myself.
Well, scientists have theorized this potential, and now with field propulsion, you're just saying how this could be part of the dealio. So
right, and my real take on the UAPs that we're talking about here, the ones that appear inexplicable by human standards like that, is that they are actually some kind of alien probe.
Right.
Unmanned surveillance craft type stuff. It does seem as though someone out there is watching. This conclusion sparked my interest and resulted in my preparing that next big, long alien probe saga that I'm going to get into after this. I might put one in between, or I might just get into it. We'll see what happens.
This one is more grounded, though, in reality.
Way more grounded. We're going to go into all the new stuff they're releasing and more historic stuff that's not quite so well known.
Jason Momoa.
Anything that could potentially maybe... And we're going to get into interstellar interlopers, Oumuamua stuff, and but yes, much more factual. I'm not going to be totally Ahul the whole way through. It's going to get really crazy at the end again.
It has to. That's what we
but
try
most
to bring
of it's going to be much more factual.
You were precocious, and you just started out there and got weirder as it went on.
I needed to see how we're very early on, and I needed to see how I wrote podcasts.
There you go.
And I was just like, okay, let loose and see what comes out. I did a very standard one for the first one. I did a really weird one for the second one. And I'm going to, like we said, meet back in the middle.
There you go.
Yeah.
In the Goldilocks zone somewhere.
But anywho, so I do have what's turned into a 5-parter coming up on alien probes. Before then, we got Maz, of course, is going to be back in the rotation with his stuff and everything too. So we'll be mixing it up for you. But all right, let's finish off this episode with... probably our most controversial of closing segments, Wolfman Puck's Cryptid Culinary Corner.
Yo, entree, sir. Smells good.
So tonight's secret ingredient is, of course, the Tic Tac craft. Let's see how our panel of experts will handle this one, Maz, you and me being our panel of experts. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You're on.
I'm on? All right, I did write something here. Let's see what I did. I forgot my beer again. Anywho, so what would I do when presented with a Tic Tac for my culinary piece? I'm going to presume from the name that for some reason this inexplicable craft would have a fresh minty flavor. So I guess I would whip myself up a nice big batch of mint chutney with fresh cilantro, ginger, onion, green chili peppers, garlic, lemon juice, and of course a ground up chunk of the minty Tic Tac.
Nice.
And mix it all into a big tub of coconut yogurt. Then bake up a batch of garlic naan and throw a bunch of tandoori lamb skewers on the grill. It would be a feast worthy of our alien overlords, man. And now my mouth is watering thinking about mint chutney. Mwah. You want to get some Indian food after this, Mouse?
I'm amazed you did find a way to use the mint, and I got to give you some credit.
Oh, and a flying horse lager with that, if you would, please.
Ooh, what is do tell? What's the flying horse?
It's Indian. I get it when I get Indian food at Indian restaurants.
All right, so because it's galactic, you could just pick any beer that you wanted.
Yeah, but this goes with the meal, though.
Okay, so you're pairing.
You don't always need a fancy beer. You just need the one that goes right.
All right. It is easier for me because I'm talking about a cryptid somewhere, and then I find the beer near the cryptid. You're on a bigger scale, and you got to figure it out.
This is galactic level, man. Maybe some Romulan wine or something, I guess, right?
Romulan ale.
Oh, yeah, it's the ale. Right? Sorry, dropped
Old
the ball on
business.
that one. That's what you made me drink an extra shot of tequila is the problem.
Is that okay? That's
and now I'm mixing up my ales and wines.
So here's what I'm doing, and this is just the way it's going to go. I was thinking octopus because you have octopus.
Don't eat an octopus, dude.
Right? I'm not. But those are the ones that were here that were left, and now we hate them because they're the
criminals.
They're the criminals. But no, we're not going to eat the octopus because the octopus teacher and stuff.
Yes, thank you.
And nowhere can you use mint anywhere. So I'm going to use those Tic Tac mints. I'm going to use them not in the food. I'm going to use it to bring my food through field propulsion, and I'm just bringing a Peter Luger wonderful steak to
the
my
plate's going to float to the table.
It's going to float to my table and get whatever the
plate.
heck I want. I'm going to get a big, nice, juicy steak.
On a floating
floating thing with Tic Tacs.
And when you're done, it just floats away.
And then it just leaves. And I didn't think of a beer or any of that. But now with Douglas Adams, I just have to serve that with a Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster.
Oh, damn it. You always beat me when you get to the drink.
Well,
I was like, I
Douglas
own this.
Adams,
He's got nothing on me. And you just pulled out Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster.
Well, that's what Douglas
God damn
Adams
it, Moss.
drinks.
You keep beating me at my own game
You
here.
know.
Driving me nuts. All right. Anywho, anything to add, subtract, comment before I close this up here, Moss?
No, I think we're good.
All right, everybody. That does it for this episode then. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you're on so you can keep track of the Monster Lore Tour as we roll along. We're going to record the follow-up members-only side trail excursion for this episode now, which will be available only in our members area, which you can find at our Patreon at patreon.com/monsterloretour or through our website at monsterloretour.com. You can also get early access to future episodes, and all other bonus materials we'll be coming up with in the future in the members area. So if you're interested, please check it out in the meantime, and we will see you back here at the edge of nowhere for the next Monster Lore Tour. Thanks again. Have a good one, listener. Monster Lore Tour Podcast.
We could look for planets orbiting.
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 Shut up!